today we're in the southwest corner of Wales on a very foggy and overcast morning here in one of my local woodlands, which is looking really nice. Now, I've got the OM-1 Mark II with me today, a camera I've been wanting to try for some time. And I'll be taking a look at some of the features that this camera has because it's very interesting, I think, for nature, outdoor and landscape photographers. Yeah, some very interesting features built into this camera that I've never tried before. So I'm super excited to give it a go and see what we can come up with today. But I'm going to take my first shot of the day here, looking back at this old oak tree, which looks absolutely fantastic in this heavy fog. So I'm focusing on the tree itself. I'm at 1/10 of a second at f5.6. 2-second timer is on. So let's grab this one and we'll talk some more. So I really did enjoy taking that first shot there, some wonderful foggy conditions. And I've played around with a few different compositions, which we'll talk about in just a second. But I just wanted to thank OM-Systems for reaching out to me and asking if I would like to collaborate with them on this video. So yeah, big thanks to OM-System for that. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what this camera can do. And I've already experimented with one of the amazing built-in features that this camera has, and that's the high res mode. So I've taken a shot of this scene in the regular shooting mode, which is a 20 megapixel image. And then I've gone over to the high res shot mode, which is a computational feature. And I've dialed in my settings so they're exactly the same as before. And now I'm getting an 80 megapixel 14-bit file. So I'm going to be really interested to see the difference between the two files, to see how well it worked. Hopefully it's come out well and we've got a really nice big rich file to work with in post-production. Now the rain is coming down pretty heavy now, which is absolutely fine for this camera. This camera has an IP rating of 53, meaning you could pretty much chuck a bucket of water over it and it'll be absolutely fine, which is amazing because here where I live, it pretty much rains every single day, give or take. And yeah, it's really nice to have a system that's completely weather sealed. So definitely had a bit of fun playing around with the high res shot mode there. I think it was working pretty well in this situation. I've tested this out in a different scenario where things were moving quite a lot and you can record that motion within the shot because it's taking lots of different images and then blending them together. So yeah, I think it only really works when you've got a very still subject. So great for architecture, still life, and landscapes when you've got very little wind, or if you're shooting maybe cliffs or rocks or mountains or something like that where you've not got a lot of moving foliage. But a really great feature to have. Now the fog has lifted somewhat and the rain is really set in now, so I think it's time to pack my gear up and head out to the coast where hopefully we'll get some nicer conditions. So the OM-1 Mark II is a micro four thirds camera, meaning it has a smaller sensor than a full frame or APS-C sensor. Now this sensor is 20 megapixels, it's a backside illuminated sensor as well, which is really nice. Now the benefits of a smaller sensor is it means your glass is smaller as well. So if we take a look at the lenses I've got today. Now this takes me from 8mm all the way up to 150 millimeters. Now, because of the crop factor of ×2, because it's a smaller sensor, in full frame terms, that gives us a field of view from 16 millimeters all the way up to 300 millimeters in this tiny little setup here. And that is one of the main benefits of using the micro four thirds system. Anyway, we are here at this amazing location, a location I come to a lot because I surf here. It's an amazing surf beach. But there's a little corner just down here with some amazing red rocks, and I think it'll be really good for some nice long exposure photography. It's still quite misty, and I think we've got a window of about 3 hours before some really torrential rain sweeps through. So yeah, I'm going to make the most of this little bit of time we've got down here this afternoon. And I think the sun might break out as well over the next hour or so. So fingers crossed, we might get some nice light. Right, let's crack on. Now typically when I'm shooting seascapes, I like my long exposures to be fairly quick, if that makes sense. So around about 1/3 to 1/10 of a second, depending on the speed of the water. So it just shows a little bit of motion without losing details in the water itself. Now on a day like today, which is actually quite bright now, we're getting around about 500th of a second on our shutter speed. So to get a longer exposure, typically what I do, I use one of these, which is an ND filter. So this reduces the amount of light that reaches the sensor. And we've got a few different options in here. But the OM-1 Mark II has a little bit of a trick up its sleeve, which we'll touch on in just a second once we get down there. So I've got the 12 to 40mm standard zoom lens on. I'm going to head down to the shoreline there, see if I can work on some of these rock formations here, try to get a bit of motion flowing around these rocks. Now, the little trick this OM-1 Mark II has got tucked up its sleeve is it's got live ND filters built into it. So yeah, they range from, I think, 1 stop up to about 7 stops of ND. So yeah, you can just select which level of ND you require and adjust your exposure to suit, meaning you don't need to add physical filters to the front of your lens, which can be very, very good if you want to travel light and don't want to take, additional filters with you, or if you don't have any filters, you've got the option of using that built into the camera. I just don't understand why all cameras don't have this. It makes no sense to me. It seems like a feature that is just, should be in every single camera, I think. Anyway, let's go and test it out and see how well it works. So the sun has actually come out, which is making things a little bit more difficult. However, I'm shooting down the beach here and we've got this water cascading around the rocks. I think it's really nice. It's very, very misty and hazy back there, which adds to the ethereal look I'm going for. I'm just letting the water flows run through these jaggedy rocks in the foreground. And I think it looks okay. I've got my 5-stop ND filter turned on, which is giving me 1/4 of a second, which just shows motion and movement in the water, which is just the look I'm going for here. Currently I'm at f13. I've had to stop the aperture down to make sure my exposure is right. I've also got a circular polarizer on the front of the lens just to take a bit of glare off of the water. Unfortunately, the OM-1 Mark II can't replicate a circular polarizer yet. Maybe that's something for the future. But anyway, let's take a couple more shots here and we'll see what we come up with. That was a lot of fun shooting those 1/4 of a second exposure. Now essentially what the camera is doing is taking multiple exposures and then blending them together to create that 1/4 of a second look. So it is a computational feature. It's not actually physically sliding an ND in front of the sensor. It's just using the software basically to create that effect. However, I think it's a very valuable feature. I just really don't understand why all cameras don't have that built into them now, because you don't always have your ND filters with you, or you like I said earlier, you might not have a set of your own, or you might not want to spend the extra money on ND filters. So having an option built into your camera is absolutely fantastic. Now, alongside the live ND filters, we've also got the live graduated ND filter, which we're going to test out next on this lovely little scene looking down the beach. So I'm actually going to put the camera on the tripod just so I can show you how this works, because this is absolutely incredible. It's probably my favourite feature so far. I mean, time will tell when we get back and take a look at the images on the full screen, but what I'm seeing here on the back of the screen looks absolutely amazing. I'm able to darken the sky while still retaining the natural exposure for the foreground. So I'm going to take a photo of this scene so you can see what it looks like without the live graduated ND filter on. Looking across these wonderful rock formations here down the beach. It's lovely and misty and hazy. The light is nice and soft, so it's all good. 2-second timer is on. Let's grab this shot and then we'll introduce the live graduated ND filter, and that's going to allow us to darken that sky down and really help us see through the image. It's so good to be able to create this in camera. It's almost like you're doing a live edit, which is super cool. I guess this would be really good, you know, you just want to share JPEGs really quickly, you don't want to do any editing. You're basically doing your editing in camera. Yeah, fantastic. Right, let's add the live graduated ND. So I'm literally going to press the menu, select live graduated ND shooting. And at the minute I'm going for the 3-stop soft filter. You can change the graduation of the ND as well. So there's lots of different options in there. I'm going to turn that on. And now I can rotate the filter by using the rear and front command dials if I wish, but I've got a very straight horizon, so I'm going to keep that level. And then I can drag the filter up and down on the LCD there to get it in exactly the place where I want it, which is absolutely incredible. I'm really enjoying this feature. Anyway, I'm going to take the shot now so you can see the difference between the two. So the rain did eventually turn up and the tide came in as well, so I had to get out of that little corner there. But I've made a couple of prints of the images today because I really wanted to see what they would come out like with the OM-1 Mark II. And I want to talk about this image here because this is an image that I've wanted to shoot for about 3 years. Now I have taken a couple of really nice shots at this location before, but they've been in winter and I've never managed to get foliage on the trees and that dense heavy fog with the light together. So it was an absolute bonus just to be able to get out and take this image. It's one that I've been wanting to take for a while and I'm really happy with it. And I think it's probably going to go on the gallery on my website. So that's really cool. Great to be able to like get out with the camera for the first time and shoot a composition that I wanted to shoot for many years. So that was absolutely brilliant. I'm thrilled to bits with that. I also made a print of one of the long exposure photographs that I took as well down there, which I also really like actually. Now, I've been looking a little bit deeper into the image here with this computational long exposure. You know, it's flawless. There's no artifacts or anything like that. So all this kind of image processing that's going on behind the scenes is really good. This is exactly what I would expect a 1/4 of a second exposure to turn out like had I used a physical ND filter. It looks fantastic. I really love how the water flows through the image. If I was going to be a little bit picky, maybe I would have liked a bit more of a payoff back here. It's maybe a little bit lacking in the back there as a composition. But overall, I think the colours are really nice. I really like how the warmer magenta tones of the rocks complement the greeny blue sea that we have there. So yeah, overall, I think it's really nice and I'm really happy with how both of these prints come out. They look absolutely fantastic, lovely and sharp. So overall, I've really enjoyed using the OM-1 Mark II over this last few days. I've really enjoyed using it. I found it intuitive to use. I've loved the computational features that it's got built in, and I really would like to spend a bit more time with this camera. Anyway, please do let me know in the comments what you think about computational features that are built into cameras these days. Do you like them or are you against them? I'd love to know your thoughts on that. Would you like to see more videos with the OM-1 Mark II? Please do let me know as well. Anyway, a massive thank you for watching and I do hope to see you again next time.